What can the legislature do to ensure eligible families retain SNAP benefits? How would you address misinformation about SNAP, participation in fraud? How should Kansas reduce agency errors that disrupt benefits?
Yeah, this is a really tough issue. It's important to me. When I got out of the Army, I worked as a case manager for homeless veterans, and part of that work was getting homeless veterans not just into housing, but signed up for other services. And so we would sign up people for SNAP, and having that conversation with a veteran is not as easy as you might think. Like, there's so much pride about that a lot of times they would say that they didn't even want to take food stamps because that made them feel a certain way about themselves and hurt their pride. And we had, soldiers that were even suicidal to a point that they over the idea of taking food stamps. So it's a serious issue, but it's also a stigma on it that we can do better about not stigmatizing food stamps, and we do that by saying that it's a needed resource. It's something. Food is something is almost a right. People need shelter. They need food. Once they have those two things covered, they can do critical thinking and other types of complex things that humans are good at, but they're not good at it unless they have food and shelter. And SNAP does that. SNAP gets us food to kids. It's really important that we feed the kids. They didn't make a...
I can't believe that's controversial now.
The kids didn't decide to not go to work. The kids are just being kids, and they need food.
Yeah. So. I think that, I bet you know what the Maslow
the hierarchy of needs.
When I learned that in college, just in my basic psychology class, I was like, that explains everything. Yeah. So it goes back to that. You have to have the basics.
Shelter and food.
If you don't have this, you can't do that. Like, I had a boss I had very briefly that was complaining. Of course, he would complain about homeless people and they need to get a job, blah, 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 blah. But then he came in and was complaining that he was at McDonald's inside and they hired a homeless person off the street and just put him to work.
Wow.
And how he was dirty and gross.
Can't have it both ways.
And I'm like, but you wanted him to work. He went and got a job,
right.
And they hired him and they put him to work in the back, like cleaning and stuff. They didn't have him helping customers.
And that is just disgusting.
How do you think he's supposed to be able to get new clothes and get a shower and get all the other things?
Right.
If he doesn't have a job. And so it's like the stigma, they can't win. And there's probably a lot more people on food stamps. I know there's a lot more people on food stamps than we know, because it's easily hideable now with the card versus like back in the day with, I don't know how old you are, but they used to have actual pieces of paper and you could tell you were using food stamps. And so there's a lot of people that don't talk about it, but those people do see their friends and family talking about it online.
There's soldiers at Fort Riley that are eligible for food stamps and take them.
They're one of the big, I don't know what the percentage are, but they are a huge portion of the users of food stamps that are service members.
Yep.
Like,
they're not getting paid by the military enough, but they're getting paid so little they qualify for food stamps.
Yeah, and it's hard for them to have a 2 working household because they move around a lot and all this other stuff. So if we can't take care of the veterans,
what are we
or
doing?
the people actively in the military, then what are we doing? Or feed the children?
Yes.
Like, come on.
These aren't controversial things.
It shouldn't be. It seems pretty common sense.